Hello, everybody. So today I want to talk about the election. Donald Trump is the president of the United States, president-elect. And of course, there was uncertainty. I was waiting for the election. I wasn't buying in Insight. Insight is 2020. I should have probably added before the election. But this is nonetheless great news. I think the great news of this election is that we got a result late at night, but we got a clear result. And so there's not going to be anything like we had in 2020 with the contestation and all that sort of stuff. It's a great news also if you own Bitcoin and Bitcoin related assets. And again, this is not a politics channel. I don't talk about politics, but unfortunately, sometimes every 4 years we have to care. And what does that mean? In the case of Donald Trump, he is the Bitcoin candidate. Why do I say he's the Bitcoin candidate? Because he was a speaker, to the surprise of much of the Bitcoin community. He was a speaker at the main Bitcoin conference in Nashville. He was a speaker where he was invited. He spoke. Harris did not do that. He's spoken out about detaxing certain crypto transactions, pushing a little bit what Cynthia Loomis is talking about. But if you buy a coffee with crypto, you probably shouldn't pay taxes. He's seriously talking about that. He said he would free Ross Ulbricht. And if you know anything about Bitcoin, this is a big point in the Bitcoin community. This is kind of a gauge that people use to make sure that someone is pro-Bitcoin, is that they are in favor of freeing Ross. And so he literally tweeted that. He's released his own crypto coins. And, obviously, I'm a big Bitcoin guy. I believe in very, very few cryptos. I mean, you could see me owning Solana, but that's about it. Maybe a little Ethereum, but that's about it. He's released his own coins, so he has some liking of the space. He likes the space. And lastly, he's pro-Bitcoin mining. He's made statements about this, and he's pro-US energy in general. So that's why a lot of people call it the Bitcoin candidate. My excitement is not about either candidate winning or not. My excitement is about the markets right now. The markets are loving this election result. They're loving it. If you look at MicroStrategy, it's up, 14% on the day, 257, a new all-time high. If you look at, in terms of market cap, if you look at CleanSpark, we're up quite a bit today again. If Bitcoin keeps running, and Bitcoin is at all-time high too, by the way, everything's at all-time high. Anyways, not CleanSpark, but Bitcoin is 75,000. If it keeps nearing towards, say, the 80,000, you're going to get into the situation where the miners are going to become profitable again. I believe this is going to be a great sector to invest over the coming months, as we have, quote unquote, the Bitcoin candidate is the candidate that has been elected. And so I'm very happy about that. No financial advice, no investment advice, of course, but my portfolio is on fire. And yet again, an important day, I am on the road, which is why the sound is not as good. One of the biggest days in the past 4 years, I'm on the road. Anyways, let me move on. Another point for Tesla. The candidate that Elon supported is elected for president. And we know the dangers that could have happened if he had supported a candidate that didn't get elected. He supported the candidate that got elected. I think that was a master chess move from Elon Musk to do that. Very risky, but a master chess move. He literally got on the quote-unquote good side. He got on the good side of the new administration. And so, of course, the positivity of this support is reflected into the stock. And it's important to note two things. First of all, Musk, and if you listen to the interview of Musk of Trump, if you listen to some of the things that Musk has said to Trump has made Musk has made efforts to convince Trump that there's a lot of business opportunity in the environmental space and that we should be working in this area. And of course, he's been working in this area ever since starting Tesla. And then B, he's convinced him that electric cars can be very good for certain people. And Trump has actually praised the Cybertruck, and he's praised what Elon has done. So they are buddies now. They are buddies. I can't believe I'm saying this, but they're buddies, which is like, it's important because now there's someone in the White House is going to be pro-Tesla and pro-Bitcoin. And if you know my portfolio, you understand why I'm so excited, because right there, these two assets are like more than 60% of a portfolio. I also might want to make this point. I think what Trump is he's a pro-USA manufacturing. Like, he's all about manufacturing. He's pro-USA. If you remember 2016, factory visits was like one of the things that he loved to do. He's pro-manufacturing. And so I don't think he would have anything to do with supporting clean energy or whatever, as long as it supports manufacturing in the US. He just wants the manufacturing to happen in the US. So if you're a manufacturer of like solar panels outside of the US, or inverters outside of the US, something like that, or batteries outside of the US, there's a concern to be had, or cars outside of the US, there's a concern to be had. But if you are manufacturing in the USA, these companies are going to do very well. And Tesla, the Tesla car, is the most manufactured in the USA car, as Elon has stated multiple times. So a pro-manufacturing person is now buddy with the CEO of Tesla. This is outstanding for the stock, and it's reflected in the stock price. Now, let's talk about a stock which I think is once again misunderstood. I haven't sold my Enphase. The stock has been flat over the past year. You can see we're down 0.26%, so it's been flat, but we've reached the bottom in microinverters. Frankly, in my view, microinverters, the only way to go seems to be up, and okay, the US is back for Enphase. Europe is struggling a little bit, but in the case of Enphase, I think the sell-off today, the 15% sell-off, I think that's the traders doing. The traders are like, oh, Enphase is solar bad because Trump not pro-solar, Trump pro-oil, thus sell Enphase. Or tariff bad, Enphase makes products in China, sell Enphase. Or, oh, IRA is for the environment, Trump anti-environment, thus sell Enphase. I think it's much more nuanced than that. It's much more nuanced than the analysis of the algos. In my view, the only thing I can say is that Trump is pro-manufacturing. And what does Enphase do? Enphase plans to manufacture ever more in the USA, and they manufacture a whole bunch in the USA. And by the way, the IRA policies, that I think a partial fear about Enphase is that those IRA policies are going to be repealed. That fear, if it were to apply to Enphase, it should also apply to Tesla, right? The 7,500 tax credits, it goes to cars, it goes to solar roofs. The manufacturing credits, it goes to making microinverters, it goes to making batteries. IRA policies support both Elon Musk, Elon's new buddy, but they support Enphase too. So if he goes after IRA, Tesla is going to be hurt. And again, I don't think that's going to happen. No financial advice, but I don't think that's going to happen, because the only thing that I find a constant is Trump is that he's pro-manufacturing. Right? He's pro-manufacturing. So as long as they do manufacture in the US, I think they'll be fine. If you remove IRA policies, that also means you have to remove the Tesla credits and all of the Tesla incentives in the form of a $7,500 tax credit for buying a new car. So again, I don't think he's going to go that route. Lastly, many of the policies in the IRA are right in Trump's wheelhouse, by the way, because part of the policies in the IRA are all about the tax cuts, and it's tax cuts in the form of tax credit, direct pay IRS, as Mandy would say, but it's also for households, for taxpayers in households. You get a tax credit because you get a car, or you get a tax credit because you get a solar roof. So it's a form of a tax cut. Obviously, Trump has voiced his support of tax cut, and it's a manufacturing incentives. These are two things that Trump support. I think the market is overreacting for Enphase. I'll be covering it more in the next 2 months. I'll have to make a decision on Enphase whether I want to tax loss harvest it or not. But for now, I think the market is overreacting, in my view. And to be honest, I'd be more worried about things where he's spoken out much more against, which is like, for example, a lot of defense contractors. Are the contracts going to be the same? I'd be more worried about that, and I'd be worried about manufacturing. He's pro-manufacturing. I may be wrong about that, but those contracts may be fine too. I don't know, because it's still made in the USA. So that I don't know. But for this, to me, it's pro-manufacturing. I don't think that's going to have an impact. No financial advice, of course. That's just me. Now let's talk about E.l.f. Let me be fair. I think E.l.f. is the one that I could see the most compelling as being hurt, but the market disagrees with me on that. The market only grants it a minus 0.37%. So the market doesn't seem to think that E.l.f. is going to be hurt. The reason why I say that E.l.f. could be hurt over a short term. Why it's perhaps a problem is because most of their makeup is made in China. And of course, Trump has been discussing a 50% tariff on Chinese made goods. So what would that mean for health, where just under 80% of the makeup is made in China? If they have a 50% tariff, I think that would be mostly a hit to the profits, to the cash flow. Maybe they would raise the price of a product a little bit too, and so would that lead to a drop in sales? I don't know. The product's pretty strong and pretty popular, and it's a pretty low price point to begin with, but that could definitely hurt the cash flow if there was a Chinese on imported tariff, 50% tariff on imported goods. But those goods are inexpensive anyway, so it's not like there's no room to raise the prices. That's a problem in my view, just for the short term, of course. Over the long term, we know that E.l.f. is on their way to manufacture goods out of China. They're moving manufacturing out of China, and the products that are still manufactured in China, they can ship them to Europe. This is what we're seeing in Europe. There's a flood, maybe I'm exaggerating, but I don't think I'm bad at exaggerating. There's a flood of Chinese cars in Europe, especially under the brand AMG, which is like a former British brand that has been bought by a Chinese giant. There's a flood of electric cars in Europe. But why is that? That's because they can't come to the US. Right? If Chinese cars could come to the US, you would probably have twice as few Chinese cars in Europe. So, maybe that's a strategy for any company that tries to import goods from China to the US. If there's a big tariff in the US, what is the strategy? They're going to just focus back on Europe and import back a bunch of goods in Europe. And then if Europe would ever get along, I guess they could potentially do tariffs on their own, but it's a very disparate form of government. So I don't really know how it's working over there anymore. I used to try to understand it, but I've been in the US for 15, 16 years now, so I forget how it works there. Anyway, Celsius is the last one. So Celsius, of course, what happens? Celsius is down today about 6%. Why? It's mostly because of robo-journalism, is what I'm going to call it. Oh, the sales are down 33%. In America, North America, sales are down 33%, and they are not digging under the hood. They're just reporting the results raw as it is, and then you have algos trading around it. That's my main take. We know full well why the sales are down. It's because the inventory at Pepsi is too high. Pepsi is still going through the inventory. This will likely be the last or the second last quarter like this. What's important is to look at the sell-through at the distributor. And when we look at the sell-through, what do we see? For example, in the convenience category, MULO Plus, a plus is written with plus sign, by the way, is the big CPG recording association that records all of the sales. It's showing that ended on October 6th, there's an 11% increase compared to this time last year. So their market share, the market share is increasing in a sector whose sales are decreasing, right? It's a sector that is on the decline, and Celsius is taking market share. They also have an incentive program so that Pepsi gets through their inventory and through the tailwind and starts reordering the way they used to. They still have to go through their inventory. Now, outside of Pepsi, what do we see for the numbers? They're expanding the sales. For example, lodging and restaurants, they're up 46% in their sales compared to the last year. So lodging is 46% for lodging and 27% for restaurants. So these beverages are being offered more and more at bars, at restaurants, at hotels. And, that's what we know. When I do my deep dive on Celsius, I've shown you like cocktails that they make, for example. You have a bar at a restaurant, they make a cocktail based on Celsius. That's taking on some increase in market share over there, some increase in market. Amazon is also perhaps, I think, the truest measure of how well they're doing. Amazon sales are up 21% year over year. They control that channel. They don't have to go for Pepsi for that channel. Costco sales are up 15% in the third quarter of 2024 alone. So under the hood, in my view, the sales, I still see the drink as popular as ever. It's unfortunate, the whole Pepsi and when do you recognize revenue type of question, and them stocking up more than they should have. It's unfortunate because the financial markets don't dig deep enough to look at that and understand that. I mean, I'm sure plenty of analysts do, but the robo traders and the emotions of the market don't look at that. But in my view, the sales are there in Celsius, and it's a story that is intact. And I'm happy to keep adding to my Celsius position. 29.50. We've gotten back to the price we were at like a month ago, roughly, or something. It's been trading in a range between 29 and 33 for the past 2 months. So it's if it's a long-term hold, it doesn't bother me. It shouldn't worry people if it's a long-term hold. For me, it's a long-term hold. So no financial advice. Of course, I have much more to say about the election. I want to make a video about what it's going to mean for monetary printing, and I want to make a video about really what's going on, right? Because the prediction markets were telling us Trump was going to win well in advance, and the only time I still watch the news, like legacy news as I call it, is every 4 years. Like I watched it this election, I watched it last election. I don't even think I wonder how much credence we should even give to their positions, because it was way off. Crowdsourcing of information is the way to go. Internet, Twitter is the new town hall. Is the way to go to get the information. It is, and that means in our workflow, like in my workflow, I probably need to delete CNBC forever into my workflow, and I probably need to delete any form of former newspaper or whatever from the workflow, because the data is not there. A random comment has probably better odds of getting it right than I was flabbergasted last night. It's like, how could you have such a discrepancy? I was stunned. So anyways, so good for the market. Very happy that it was especially a quick decision and not a drawn out process like 2020. Very happy. We can move on now and we can look at the stocks and we can analyze our stocks. So this was not financial advice, not investment advice, just entertainment. Hoping you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.